Hi all, welcome back to the 1 minute farming videos. And as I mentioned in the last video, I was going to put the reverse and forward gears back into the bottom of the gearbox. Now the gearbox is upside down at the moment, and as I also mentioned in the last video of the introduction video to the Holbrook lathe, I took no videos of me taking it to pits because it was a learning curve for me. So it was the way I learned how to take it to bits is going to be the way I put it back together. So in this series it will be the bits that I put back, as I put them back together, that would be the way you would take it back to bits again. So this was the last bit I took off the lathe bed, so obviously it's going to be the first bit I put back on. Now these gears that go in the bottom here, you can't get to these once the gearbox is back on the lathe, so obviously you need to be able to put these back in. Before you put the gearbox on. So the reversing gears are of the usual kind. There's 3 bevels, 2 mounted in these 2 brass bearings here and 1 mounted in the bottom. So the first one you're going to put back in is the one with the longest shaft on, because obviously once the other gear's in you wouldn't be able to get this one in. So the first thing we're going to do is put plenty of oil on, a bit like when we're building the car, tractor engines. Plenty of oil. It's a bit new this to me because I'm going to try and do these videos, video of them as I've done it. On the tractor, a lot of the stuff I didn't video, I just did it and then explained how I did it. So I'm hoping this is going to work, and we shall see. So we'll put that in there. Right. Considering this lathe is neck end of 80-year-old, I believe it was probably built in about 1936-37. It's amazing how a lot of this stuff just has no wear on it. They are lubricated. They have oilers which you fill with oil. This one's obviously upside down, but basically you twist that, fill in the hole and then turn this back, and then it's got lubrication for the bearings. The biggest problem with them is that when they were in the factory, and this would originally have been a factory lathe, they are known as tool room lathes. When it was in the factory, you would oil your lathe up. I don't know how often they would have recommended you did it, but I'm guessing you would oil the lathe fairly regular in use. And as I stated, it could very well have seen wartime use, this lathe, so it could have been working 24/7. And so, you know, different shifts the men would change over, and on the change of shift you would oil your lathe through various oiling spots. So the first thing we're going to drop back in now, we've got those in, lovely and smooth, and so we're going to now put the, this is a lovely brass cog, phosphor bronze possibly, no, it'd be phosphor bronze probably, yes, phosphor bronze. I'm going to put this one back in the bottom. We'll put this one in now. To get this back in, you're going to slop him into gear such as that. Let it all twist round. put it in like that, and then somewhere, there we go, there's a thrust washer there, so we're going to oil that up. Some oil on that. I'm just using good engine oil. So I think when we rebuild the lathe, we'll put proper, we'll get some proper oil for lubrication. I'm seeing a lot of these guys that run these big lathes are actually running them on hydraulic oil, 46 weight hydraulic oil. It seems to match in with the original sort of oil that they would have used back in the day. So that's the thrust washer, slides in under this phosphor bronze gear, and then there's its shaft which goes in at the top here. Put a bit of oil on that, obviously. That. Drop that in there. I think the beauty of this is how lovely a lot of this stuff just connects together. It just amazes me how well it all slides together. There we go. I'm just going to check how the time's going, because that's the other constraint I have with this video. Yeah, so we've got another 6 minutes, 7 minutes. So the next thing we do is slide this shaft in. Now, this shaft was actually a bit tight when I tried it earlier, so I'm hoping it's not going to be tightened again. I'll get a bit more oil on it this time. One thing you don't want to be doing is hammering anything. It's one thing to wreck tolerances. Now, this bearing's good, it's just dry at the moment. I cleaned it out. I'm not going to oil it up just yet. So this is going to go back in here. We'll stick some oil in there. Stick some oil in. Stick some oil in that side. There we go. And put that back in there. Hopefully. Now we've got to put the, want a better word, the dog back in. So there's something underneath the lathe that is worked by one of those rods that connects to a fork via levers that moves this dog backwards and forwards. It fits in there. Oh, actually now I recognise something. Ha! I've obviously left a cog off. So just put it back out again. A bit silly. There we go. Put that back in. Where's he that? There we go, put that keyway back on. Then we've got this cog. And we've got to make sure these have a slight chamfer on them. So we've got to make sure that we get them in the right way. hopefully that is just going to fall on there. Yep. So I'm going to have to just get my little drift, my brass drift, and just tap that on. So I'm just going to take you out because I know this video will be coming short fairly quickly. There we go. So yeah, so this gear goes tight up against here. As I say, if you see on there, there's a slight chamfer on all these gears because something connects. It's like a gearbox, crash box. There's a gear runs on this shaft here, and it's obviously got to mesh with these teeth. As I say, that dog there fits in the middle. That shaft that we had in initially goes through the middle, and then it's tightened up again with a thrust washer and nut on the back, and then there's a phosphor bronze washer screws onto those 3 screws there to keep this gear in line. So yeah, so there we go, and that will get that somewhere near. As I say, I'm going to have to get a drift just to tap this onto this shaft, well, onto this hub. And therefore, once we get these bits on, if you can imagine, the gearbox will be upside down, back over, sorry, and then when we drop it inside onto the top of the lathe, there's a fork sits in here, which basically moves this dog backwards and forwards. So when it's, I think when it's in this position, it goes forward. When you move it back, it goes into that. It also has a neutral as well, which allows, through the magic of rods, it gives you a stop, so it'll knock itself out of gear. Yeah, so that's the plan. Get this put back together, yeah, we can get the gearbox dropped back on, which I'll be doing tomorrow. And now I probably won't video me putting the gearbox back on, but it's fairly simple. There is a pin there, which is like a dowel. Now I will knock that back down a bit, so it's clear of the way there, the way where it sits on the way. I'll knock that back down because it'll be very difficult to lower this gearbox back onto the lathe with that out. And then we'll line it all up with the 4 bolts. So there's that bolt, one there, and one there. And then once we're happy with it all lined back up again, I will then knock the dowel back through. Obviously the dowel goes through into the gearbox. I'll knock it back through so it locates on the V-way. Yeah. Oil all these surfaces when you're putting it back together. You don't want them going rusty, so put a bit of oil on them so they don't go rusty, and that should be it really. Okay then, alright then, till next time, thank you, bye.